Welcome to Halifax Sports Talk. Andrew and Dayton with you guys. We are going to go over all things Halifax Mooseheads, and the Halifax Wanderers are off to the postseason. Can't wait to get into that. Also, a special episode coming out on Tuesday night, and looking forward to that as well. We'll have a special guest to talk all things Wanderers and CPL playoffs. But Dayton, we keep talking about how this team, the Halifax Mooseheads, continue to battle, continue to fight, and although one game a little bit different than the next, this team is continuing to show their growth over this season and what we've seen over the past even couple years.
Yeah, it was a good weekend for the Mooseheads. Overall, it started off strong. The second game wasn't as good as the first, I'll say that. Brad McKenzie would definitely say that as well. Not too sure what he was saying in the dressing room after that second game, but it was kind of a different team after the second period. They were kind of flat. Lots of penalties, but we'll get into all of that just here in a couple minutes.
Well, a 1-1 weekend for them, and the Halifax Wanderers, they go 0-1, or they drop a game 0-1. But regardless of that, they already punched their ticket to a home field playoff match. So that's all that really matters for them. The Newfoundland Regiment, we've talked about them playing at home, and we've also talked about maybe the differences and how it's going to be for them when they go on the road and play in a really big and intimidating arena like the Scotiabank Center or Metro Center, depending on when you started calling it certain things. But this Halifax Mooseheads team, let's start it out. I mean, first and foremost, we've talked about the goaltending as well from Breston and how great he's been. But Circa gets his a shutout, not just a win, but a shutout for him. What can you say about his performance? I mean, this team played very well in front of him, no denying that. 3-0 win, but very nice to see a backup goalie get a shutout there.
Yeah, he's still young as well, so that's something to look out for. Circa could have a couple more years in this league ahead of him if he decides to stay here before going to the NCAA. He's a great kid. He was interviewed by Aiden Robertson after the fact on Eastlink after he got that first shutout, and he looked so happy. The guy, he said it was just an honor to play in this league, and it was just like so happy, or he was so happy, and it was just a great feeling. So he played well, and he definitely felt good about it. He stopped 32 shots, and he made some big saves when he was really counted on, and it showed that he's ready to make an impact in this league. He's not just a backup goaltender.
Well, we all know how much that matters, especially in a league like the Q, where with the travel, how much that can impact teams, and especially when you go away on the road, like to those Quebec road trips and such. And we've talked about the road trips being a bit different now, but regardless, I think it is so important to be able to have the back-to-back taken care of, and being able to have that confidence in your second option. So 32 shots, and he stops all of them. You love to see that. Caden Blake, what are your thoughts on him and some of the guys stepping up for this Halifax Mooseheads team? I mean, we can talk about some of the big name guys that continue to put the puck in the net, but some other guys contributing in this game, which is always good to see.
Yeah, well, Kalen Blake had actually, by the end of it, 3 goals in 3 straight games because he scored in the Saturday game as well. But the Friday game was a second goal in his second straight game, this time against his home province team. He's from Newfoundland, so probably great feeling to score. I can't tell, but if I was Kalen Blake and I scored against my home province team, I'd be pumped. So, yeah, shout out to Kalen Blake for pumping his tires a bit with a great goal. And then in the second game as well, scored the third in 3 games. So he's on a roll, even though the Mooseheads did lose that one. It's great to see some guys jumping up and getting some goals. And then the other guy I wanted to touch on was Antoine Fontaine. He actually, I touched on it in the post-game recap. He picked up a beautiful pass from Cam Manella off the wall, just onside, picked it up and shelved it over the glove of Pleward, yes. So, or Prue. So he was great all game, and Fontaine able to kind of make a name for himself and stay in this lineup a little bit. He's been fighting in and out of the lineup, fighting to stay in the lineup. He's been in the press box a lot. So great to see a younger guy that's been with the Mooseheads before kind of get back into things here. So great for him. And great to see some depth scoring. Like we've been saying all season long, it's really balanced in Halifax, not one guy kind of jumping to the top.
Yeah, nice goal as well, and a couple different styles of goals. And this team, they keep putting a show on at the Metro Center. I mean, they seem to, no matter what the score is, no matter what the result is, it seems to be a lot of exciting games that they're being played there. So 3-0 win in the first one, and as you're going to see for the most part, when the regiment come to town to play most teams, you're going to get those back-to-backs. We'll find out at the end of the season if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I wouldn't be shocked to see the regiment have a lot of like 500 weekends where they win one, lose one. We've talked about it before, but I know some coaches, like, they're so good at looking at the film, or like if a home team like the Halifax Mooseheads win the first one, you know, inherently, involuntarily take your foot off the gas pedal. You don't mean to do it. You don't want to do it, but you just do. And sometimes that can happen. You know, they didn't look as strong the next night, but they still looked pretty good on Saturday.
I also wonder if both teams playing one goalie one night and then the other goalie the next night will become a theme where the so-called backup goaltender will come in for either the first game or the second game, where whenever the teams post their lineup and coaches get a chance to look at it. But if that becomes a theme for Newfoundland, it also might result in more 500 weekends, like you said. If Beckmanags and Prue both play one game a weekend, then it might be harder to gain some consistency depending on how the goalies are playing, because you're on long road trips. Guys are sitting, guys are on the bench for, like, after a hockey game, that's 3 hours that you're in gear, not moving. You might get tired after a while. So it's always something to look at. And like we said, I'm a fan of these two game splits now during a weekend, because you get to see more of a team coming. But it'll be interesting, and I guess Newfoundland's not faring too bad, but they could be doing more than some 500 weekends, because they're a couple places behind Halifax right now in the standings. Halifax tied for third with 14 points. Newfoundland with 12 points, not far behind, but there's a couple teams in there in between.
Yeah, and I think that those back-to-backs, I mean, hopefully they end up being an advantage for Newfoundland at some point, but it can be a little bit different if, you know, you're a team that kind of really works off rest and you work off having your top guys out there. If a team knows you, like the Halifax Mooseheads know you because they just played you the previous night, it can work out a bit different. But we talked about the 500 weekends. Well, the regiment, they bounced back. They played a little bit better of a performance. We talked about the shutout on the first half of the back-to-back. Second half of the backpack, we saw the regiment get on the board and put up 4 and play a much better game. So, yeah, I think that maybe the defense took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was tough for Halifax. Like I said, they had 8 penalties in that second game, 3 of them in the first period. They did get on the board first, thanks to Kalen Blake, but it was really short-lived. The Halifax Mooseheads got swarmed from penalty trouble. Eddie Doyle took a one-timer off the ankle from Marek Danicek, and that guy can fire a puck. So Doyle went down the tunnel. He kind of stayed in the room for a little bit back out in the second period, later in the period, but one of your top defensemen, as he just got named to the QMJHL prospect game. We'll talk about that in a second, but he was out for most of the first period and a little bit of the second. That's never going to help you, and especially when you're on the penalty kill so much. So it was really just a lack of discipline for the Mooseheads in the second game, and they were probably kind of, like, honestly gassed. I'll say it. They were probably a little tired from that first game the night before, because it's not too often that you're playing back-to-backs, and the Mooseheads haven't had too many back-to-backs at home this season.
So they still remain with a pretty good record on the year, but yeah, would have liked to have had back-to-back good efforts there. It still looked okay, and but as you mentioned, those penalties, excuse me, that can really add up, especially junior hockey. Like, if you're not establishing 5-on-5 play, that can hurt you. So great point by you mentioning that, and 8 penalties there can be tough. Third in the East, though. Final game of the homestand coming up. We'll talk about that maybe on a next episode, or did you want to preview that a little bit right now? Final will be against Cape Breton. Always a good one when they play them. Any quick thoughts ahead of that one here?
Yeah, just a quick one. I'm always a big fan of a Cape Breton Halifax game. It's actually the matchup that I've seen the most in the QMJHL, the Battle of Nova Scotia, just like the jersey behind me. It's always good. Cape Breton's a little bit of a better team this year. They've got the L'Italien brothers, so it'll be the Battle of the L'Italiens as well. Malik on the back end for Halifax, but Elliot and Romain for Cape Breton. So they'll be button heads all night, I bet, and it'll be great for the fans to see as well. Lots of skill on both ends.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Like, I just like no matter what sport it is, I'm always going to find it pretty cool to have families being in a league like that, or on one team, or even competing against each other. It's pretty cool. Get that picture before the game starts, and it's like no matter who wins, you're proud that you both made it this far. So that'd be pretty cool. And as you mentioned, for me as well, my family, my old man's from Cape Breton, so we used to go to watch a lot of Mooseheads and Eagles games together, and I would always ask him, like, who are you cheering for? Like, he's like, come on, I'm cheering for the Eagles. But then we'd go to like Moosehead games together and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of fans in Halifax that will go to the games that are Capers as well. And they'll go and they'll be cheering for the Eagles. And I'll tell you, last year in the postseason, it sounded like the Eagles were definitely building that fan base back up again in Cape Breton, and they were selling out the arena. So that team's always good right now. And then they give you a good fight. That's for sure. They give you a good fight. So looking forward to that one. But the Halifax Mooseheads got to be feeling good right now about how they're playing, and they're getting a little bit of contribution from everybody. And I just think the storyline for me of the weekend is the shutout from your number 2 goalie. I mean, we know Breston's been great, but to get Circa has shut out there, 3-0 victory. The team played well in front of him. I think that was huge to look at. But QMJHL prospects game coming up in Sherbrooke. And you had a couple guys from the Halifax Mooseheads that'll make their way there, which is always an exciting time. And for some guys, they're already going to get drafted. They know where they're going to get drafted. They have an idea of where they're going to get drafted. But for some players, this is an opportunity and probably the first chance they've been in front of this many scouts. I've been lucky enough to go to some of these games, and when you're there, you see a lot of people walking around in fancy suits and ties, and you can tell they're not just representing local CHL teams. They're from the big leagues, and they're trying to find out who the next players are that they want to draft. So who should they be watching out for on the Halifax Mooseheads?
Well, they've got 3 guys that they started out with: Will Bent, Oleg Kulibyakin. They were 2 of them. And then they also threw in there Danny Walters, the hometown boy. Kind of surprising. I don't know. I didn't really see Danny Walters getting selected right off the hop, but he's had a great season. And then Eddie Doyle, he's slowly been having a great season as well. Something that I mentioned a couple of episodes ago in a post-game recap, that Eddie Doyle was having a quiet but good season. He's quietly having the best season of his career. And what I mean by that is he's not mentioned too many times. He's not making very many mistakes on the back end. And if you're a defenseman and you're not hearing your name called that much, it's probably because you're just playing a solid game, breaking pucks out, chipping pucks off the glass, making breakout passes, breaking up plays on the back end. Not things that are, like I said, mentioned very much. You won't get called out for it, but it's just solid plays that keep your team structured. And Eddie Doyle does that very well on the back end for Halifax. And look, these are all guys that are eligible for the draft, and I think Eddie Doyle deserves to be there just as much as any of them. So 2 Canadian boys, an American boy, and a Russian, all heading to the prospect game from Halifax. Great to see. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they have to offer. And I'm also kind of interested where I can watch that. I'm going to be looking for that tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. It's good to see, and that a good performance there can make a world of a difference for certain players. Hoping the best for Danny Walters, local guy, and I think that one thing he's been proving this year so far, Dayton, from what I've watched of the Halifax Mooseheads, is the 200-foot game. I feel that fans don't always necessarily look at that, and we want to talk about points all the time, but more and more these days, like when you watch podcasts and like Spit and Chicklets, and they'll have former players on or veteran players, and they'll even talk about like players having to find a role. Like even Brad Marchand, who's now two-time cup winner and an unbelievable guy, like in the NHL. Like he was a fourth liner for the Bruins when he went in. But I remember watching him for the Halifax Mooseheads when he was like an agitator. He was running around like poke checking people and like hitting them after the whistle and being kind of a goof, like he was messing around. But then when he got to the NHL, even though he was kind of a smaller guy, he was on the fourth line, irritating people, getting on their nerves, and then he worked his way up. I'm not comparing that to Danny by any means, but what I'm saying is that he's realized that the 200-foot game is so strong, so important, and that can really help you stand out. But of course, we know back to his major midget days is that he's got that offensive ability. He's got the scoring touch. So if you can have both, it can be really dangerous.
Yeah, with the Halifax Max. Actually, shout out to the Halifax Max. They just made it to the final at the Ottawa Sens U18 showcase. So
Cool.
Great to see them. And former Halifax Mac, I remember seeing clips of Danny Walters throwing the body, scoring goals. He was a wrecking ball in that U18 league here in Nova Scotia. But in his first year, like you said, players find roles. Danny's role was just to go out there, be a fourth liner, and use his energy and use his body and hit guys. That's exactly what he did. Now this year, he's kind of had a new role and he's filled into it very well. He's kind of looked back on his major midget days, grabbed a little bit of that scoring touch out of his back pocket and said, "Here you go. This is what I can do, coach."
That's good to see it. And he's showing a little bit of everything because you know what? At the next level, you got to be able to have a little bit of that as well. All right. So the QMJHL showcase game and prospects is always good to mention. U17s coming up in Truro. Truro becoming a bit of a hotbed for some big hockey games lately over the past few years, which is kind of cool to see. But one guy we've already talked about actually on the podcast this season that visited the Halifax Mooseheads had a pretty good game while he was here. Alexei Joseph will be in the building for that game or named to Team Canada. That's pretty good for him. No surprise, though.
Yeah, definitely no surprise. Alexei Joseph plays well when he's in Nova Scotia. I guess we've seen that, a sample of that when he played in Halifax. So if he plays well in Truro, that'll be great for his draft stock as well. Going to the U17s, always something to be proud of for Canada. Canada sends 3 teams to this, if I'm correct. Maybe 2 teams, Canada White, Canada Red. They used to, maybe it's the Junior A Challenge they send 3 teams to. I think the U17s, they only send 2 teams. But it's still great. You get the Finns, the Americans, all the same teams that you would get. So it's great for Truro as well to get all of this. Even though, like you said, we've been getting up here in Truro, we've been getting a lot of women's games. There's some Junior A. I believe there was some, or not Junior A, World Junior, like pre-tournament games, not like the preliminary, but teams would play like a preliminary, like pre-tournament game. It was like before the tournament started, but yeah, great for Truro, great for Hockey Canada as well to get all these guys like Alexei Joseph. But one guy they left off the list, I was kind of interested to see this. It was a tweet that I saw. James Scantlebury was actually picked very high this year in the QMJHL draft. The Quebec Ramparts actually got rid of a couple of picks, and they moved up a couple of spots to select James Scantlebury. James Scantlebury was actually at the USHL Chicago Steel development camp, and now he plays for the USHL's Chicago Steel. So I think I have a theory of why he's been left off the roster. If that is not correct, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure on that one.
And we're here for the hot takes. We're here for the theories. So I'm happy to hear it. You know, that type of stuff happens. That type of stuff definitely happens. So I'm curious about that as well. But those, making those teams and then being named to prospect games, all that stuff really does matter. But then again, you move forward and you just got to try and impress at any time you really can. But I love it. I love a hot take from you. Bringing your own theories there.
Yeah, and come World Junior time, Hockey Canada, if they stick with that theory, then they've got a lot of hard decisions to make because guys like Roger McQueen, Gavin McKenna, Caden Lindstrom, all these top-end guys that could play World Juniors for you are now in the States and have left the CHL. So you might have to stick with that motto, but I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, coming off what happened last year, I think they're going to do anything and everything they can to forget about the old boys club of respecting the older players or got to have guys that are forecheckers and this and that. Don't get me wrong. I know on a big team, you need to have guys that can play all positions. You need the talent. When you're down against Latvia with 2 minutes to go, you don't really need a forechecker. You need a goal scorer is what you need. So you and I will 110% be talking World Juniors on this podcast, and I can't wait for that. But I want to mention tomorrow we're going to have Josh Healy on the podcast. He does so much stuff. The Wanderers Notebook. He does Halifax football writing. Unbelievable stuff. He's worked with the CPL, Canadian Premier League, of course, worked with One Soccer. And of course, he's been covering the Halifax Wanderers for several years. We're going to have him on the podcast. It'll be an exclusive Wanderers-based podcast, introducing ourselves, I would say, to Wanderers fans. We've been talking about them on and off here for a couple of weeks, but this will be our first mainstay CPL episode. So the Wanderers, they earned and punched their ticket to the postseason. And then for the last week or two, they were battling for home field advantage. Although they're going in on kind of a negative note, although after they gave up a goal, what was it here? The 88th minute. They should be very pleased with the home field advantage that they've had. And when I take a look at the most recent results for these teams, I'll tell you what, York has a loss, 2 draws, a win, and a loss again in their last 5 results. So I still think momentum works in the favor of the Halifax Wanderers. Tomorrow is the press conference. Players will kind of have their walkthroughs, their practices. They'll speak to the media. Same with Patrice Geyser. And Josh Healy is going to be there. He'll get some thoughts, some quotes, and he'll relay them to us. We'll try and get the podcast up Tuesday night. And you guys can watch that on Tuesday and, of course, into Wednesday as well. But I'll tell you, I used to go to a ton of the Wanderers games. I went to a handful this year, but not as many as in years past. But there's something special about those midweek games. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just kind of electrifying. Like, it's like, okay, you know what? When else are you going to go watch a huge game in any sport? Like, usually you think hockey, Saturday night. Last year with the Thunderbirds, it was on a weekend. But no. The big playoff matches fall on weeknights a lot of times with the Canadian Premier League. I can't wait. The crowd's going to be rocking. This team has earned it, and a lot of good stuff to look at. But one thing about this team, they've scored their most goals this year, I think, in like 4 or 5 years of existence as a franchise. This is a team that's had the offense, which is something they haven't really had in the past. So we're going to go over a lot of Josh's notes going into this playoff matchup, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how long Halifax can keep that home field advantage. I know they finished kind of lower in the standings, so I know if they go on and move past this round, they'll probably be the away team as the sun shines directly into my eyes. Like, hopefully it is on York's goaltender Wednesday night. But yeah, I'm excited. Like you said, the fans get crazy. The Garrison patio, and then right up behind them, the European section. Get the guys with the blue smoke. They blow it around the flags and everything. It's insane. So I can't wait. I'm gonna have to, if not this year, next year, bucket list, knock it off. I'll have to a Wanderers game.
We'll get to one for sure. And hopefully we'll be talking to some players and stuff next year. We started the podcast pretty much for the start of the Mooseheads season, but near the end of the Wanderers season. So hopefully we've grown this channel up. Hopefully you guys have all liked and subscribed to a lot of our videos. And we'll be back in action next year covering the Wanderers the full summer. But as for now, guys, thank you for watching. As always, we always appreciate it if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the like button. Make sure you comment below and subscribe to our channel. And make sure you find us, Halifax Sports Talk, on multiple social media platforms. And if you are watching on podcast platforms, make sure you hit the 5 stars. It helps us out quite a bit. Remember, special episode Tuesday night, the Halifax Wanderers playoff preview match against York United. We'll see you guys next time.